So, tonight we are here to talk about worthiness, and the reason that this is the subject that I've chosen for this opportunity to speak to people is because so much is about worth at the moment. Many of us are watching the news and we're hearing about the cost of living, how money's been distributed, how it's not, how cash is not becoming a thing and crypto is a thing, and all the different things that comes to do with money, which for some reason humanity has attached our self-worth to. So tonight I want to get back to the meaning of what self-worth actually is and how you can unbind, if you can understand your energy and that everything is energy, if you unbind what you have made to mean self-worth, then you can shift everything. So, who here can understand that everything is energy? Does that make sciencey sense to people? Cool, and even woo-woo sense if it's the woo-woo thing for you. But there's enough evidence, right, to show us that everything is energy. And so if everything is energy, it means that there is a positive and a negative, which means you get to choose which filter you see life through. So, who here believes, and we're going to test this because it's going to be, who here believes that chickens have lips? You've never thought about it? Do chickens have lips? Not sure? There's no skin? It's interesting. Some of you will Google it later because I'm not actually going to give you the answer. Right? So, the reason I want to tell you that is because data or thoughts are not our own. If everything is energy, thoughts are energy too, which means that if it's coming to us at a direction, if I say blue elephant, where did that come from? In front of you, behind you, beside you? If I say blue elephant, where does that thought come at directionally to you? In line? In front? Yeah. What about chicken? Which direction did it come? Just point. Yeah. What about your school principal? What direction does that come in? Behind? Up? Behind? Up? Great. What about your dad? What direction? In your energy field, what direction did the thought of your dad come from? Because if everything's energy and we think about it as like a radio wave, so if you are changing radio stations, you're changing the frequency that you're on, which means that dependent on whether you're choosing to see life positively or negatively, or from an anger lens or from joy, from love, whichever frequency you decide to see life through is the data that you have access to and the quality of the thoughts that you have access to. So when I say blue elephant, usually for people, it's in all different directions, but they start to be able to see that if we have an energy field, you know when you walk into a party, this is not a party, we're at Friday night at a community hall, right? It could be a party if we make it that. But you walk through and then you notice that the energy drops because somebody's energy comes into the space and they're like negative as. Or somebody comes and they're the life of the party and you notice the whole frequency shift. That is the power of your own energy field and how your energy field is impacted by others. So, if I was to say to you, there's two energy ways you can have. It's internal or external. So if you were an internal person, your past doesn't really affect you. You look at people whose past affects them and you're like, why the fuck can't they just get over that and move on? If they just did it the way that I did it, they'd do it right. Whereas if you're an external, you always think you're broken. And you always think that nothing you ever do is good enough. And you want to be the best in your city, you want to be the best in your town, you want to be the best in your state, you want to be the best in the country, the best in the universe, the best in the metaverse, and whatever other verses are out there. But it's never ever enough. And the work that Donnie Epstein does, who is the energy guru for Tony Robbins, his book, The Seeker's Code, is incredibly powerful. And when you know whether you are an internal or external, and this is why your energy field matters, because whatever direction your thoughts are coming from is whether you are living in an energy-rich state or not. So how you feel about yourself, I'm not worthy, which is the main limiting belief that I'm going to be talking about tonight. There's 3 main limiting beliefs in life that everything comes down to. I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy usually runs on the father line. I'm not good enough and I'm not lovable usually runs on the mother line. So they are all generalizations, but when you can make sense of that, you can understand why the masculine and the feminine energy that we talk about has so many issues. So I'm going to take you on a journey from birth to where you might be now, whether you are 12 or 21. It's going to make sense, right? So we're born, and this is stupid. Like, we made a Mary Poppins table, but we weren't going to use it today. So you're born. Do you believe that when a baby is born, wherever they are born in the world, they are born 100% worthy? No matter on their demographic, their geography, whatever the fuck that word is, or how much money their parents have, whether they're born just with a mum or whether it's just dad or whoever it is, they're born 100% worthy. Cool. So everybody here, as far as you are aware, you are a human. Some of you may be alien, we're not sure yet, though. So that at some point in your life, then you are 100% worthy. Cool. So I wonder when you stopped believing that you were 100% worthy. So we're born 100% worthy, we come into and we're really fucking demanding. Like, a baby knows they have high standards. Feed me, hug me, love me. Then they can walk and crawl and walk, whichever order they want to do it first. And then all of a sudden, they get told to be quiet. Or they get told to be different than what they are. Maybe to perform. Or they learn without being told, they just see it in their environment, that they have to change who they are so that mum won't be as angry at me or dad won't come at me when he comes home on Friday night. You start to adjust your behaviour. You start to change who you are so that you belong, so that you fit in, and so that people love you. So we start doing that as a toddler and as a child, and then we get to, 12, 13, when you start high school, and you start realising that it matters what you wear. It matters what shoes your parents can afford to buy you. It matters what your best friend thinks of you. It matters what the men say about you if you're a girl. It matters what the girls say about you as a guy.
It's like one of those rap guys' girlfriends.
So you stand around and you're all just bitching about everybody. You're bitching about... That's how you fit in, because you start talking negatively about others. Somebody talks negatively, so you start doing it as well, and then everybody's talking. And this song was for me, because my name is Rebecca and I was always the Becky, so everybody on the dance floor would be like, Becky, look at her butt. And I'm like, I don't want to look at her butt. But I don't mind, right? So we then get to the age, so we're in teenagehood, and not only are we dealing with the changes of what's happening in regards to I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, hormones start to kick in. We start to physically shift and change what we look like. But then all of a sudden, adults around us start asking us, what are you going to do when you're older? What are you going to be? Are you going to go to uni? Now, this can happen when you're 12, 15, 17. What the fuck do you know? Right? So all of a sudden, everything is about money. How much am I going to earn? What job should I go? I should go to uni because it's going to earn me this much money. Or I'm going to be a famous YouTuber, which is totally possible for people. I'm just making sure that I'm not giving any limiting beliefs to my child. Be a famous YouTuber. Do you know how many African American boys focus on sport because it's the only thing that they see success in? That they don't see themselves in a successful role being an entrepreneur. I mean, it's changing now. Like, we're seeing more entrepreneurs, we're seeing more influencers, they're seeing more of this out there. But so many of them focus just on sports so early because it's the only route they think they can take. That's the only place that they see worth, that they're worthy of. And so I wonder, in your own journey, where did you decide to go from being the baby that was born 100% worthy, and you all agreed that you're born 100% worthy, and you told me you're human. So at some point, you thought you were 100% worthy, which means your self-worth started at 100%. And then at some point, with your self-worth, you then tied in by using external validation, what others think of you. Turn the radio station down, Mum, this song's really embarrassing, you're dropping me off at school. That actually happens to me. Right. Or the shoes that you wear, and whether they were hand-me-downs from your older sister. That was also me. Luckily, I had skills, and I was quite clever. But I remember it started happening for me at about the age of 11 or 12, where I'd get dropped off to school in the car that was known to break down. And then my mum would get out to put petrol in the car, and she's dressed as a fairy. And I would have the clothes that my sister wore, because I'm one of 4 girls, and we were it was a single parent family. But I remember going, fuck, people are going to judge me on this. So I remember being 12 and getting a job, lying that I was 14 so I could get a job, so I could earn money. And do you know the first paycheck I got, what I bought? The Nickelback album from the South Bank markets, because I used to work at South Bank Kebabs. Anyway, different story. So external validation, you started caring what other people thought, and you started making your self-worth, whether you are worthy, be attached by other people's opinions of you and what other people thought of you. And then you roped in your net worth. The things that you own, the house that you own, the car that you drive, the materialism of the things you have. And many of us go to networking events where they actually give you the opportunity to network, which usually happens here and didn't happen tonight. But it might happen after, right? But then it's like, what do you do? It's like the second question that gets asked after your name. And then depending on what you say you do, people will usually attach a money value to that or a worthiness. Do you know what they do? I wonder if it's worth me making sure I keep that contact or not. How does that serve me? Like, this actually is how we are functioning unconsciously. So then if we have then gone from 100% being like self-worth, that's the definition of it, then we've tied in external validation, which has then decreased this from 100% to 80% to 50% to 10% to 0% for some people. And then we've added on the things that we own. No wonder one of the biggest limiting beliefs is I'm not worthy. So who here believes that they have the limiting belief of I'm not worthy? And if you don't put your hand up, and I know some of you are lying. Right? Okay. So if you were to say, and I'm taking these heels off because I tried to be fashionable and I fucking don't care. All right. That's why I was sitting down when you were all standing up doing that breath thing. So when you are not 100% worthy, why? Why do you think you're not 100% worthy? Where did it come from for you?
You're asking me?
Yeah. You're not a client of mine, so, you know.
Where did mine initially come from?
When did it start?
When did it start? Well,
How old do you reckon you were?
so
Very, very clear.
very specific.
It's very specific. 7 years. And if you were to know that earliest memory, what was happening for you?
Just not feeling worthy within my family, like being.
As in you weren't, like your sisters were better than you?
Yeah.
Or,
Well, and just from dad, like just not being worthy.
yeah, but how do you know that at 7? So what, like, dad's just like choosing others over. You don't have to.
really want me to say this?
No, you don't have to go into full depth. Just give some like context of like you can't. You're not 7 going, I'm not worthy.
Just little things of like, you wouldn't get 100% on a maths and you get 99.
Great.
It was like,
Yep.
where's
Yeah.
the-
Nothing's ever good enough. So this is where it's like the good enough starts as well. I was speaking to a client in a session today, and he doesn't pay his kids based on A's and B's and stuff, but his dad does. And I'm not sure if any of you have ever had sport and parents and they like pay you like $20 if you score a goal. I'm never doing that. Just so you know. But generation before, it was like quite a common thing to pay, like to reward for success, right? And then that sort of drove home, I'm not good enough because all of a sudden school gets hard and then I'm not getting as much money from granddad that I used to get. And so granddad doesn't love me as much because now I'm not getting the A's that I got X, Y, Z. And it's just starting to happen there. And it was like, he's like, the only reason he doesn't do it and his wife don't do it because they don't believe in it, but they don't want to have the awkward conversation with dad because of all of the ties and the limiting beliefs and everything that's attached to that, right? The reason I'm saying that is because this plays out in so many different ways. But the I'm not worthy can literally start with the good intention. Most humans are great humans. Most people have good intentions. We just don't know the outcome after, the aftermath. So even though granddad's paying the $50 for the A's and on the reports and those sort of things, their youngest is now starting to struggle at school and is about to have a diagnosis and all those sort of things. And it's like, he didn't get a good report card at this. So it's the first one where the older brother would get more than the younger one, right? And this came out of fucking nowhere. He didn't raise it. I just sort of asked a question and then it just went down a rabbit hole, which happens. And it was magic because the thing is we were able to go back to the root cause of why he deems his unworthiness to his dad. And now he's like, I can totally have a conversation with dad now about this. And I'm like, you can. And it was really, really exciting and a bit of a breakthrough moment for him. So 7 years, you scored 2 goals, but you missed one. And I'm not, just contextually, you can score 2 goals, you miss one, and he only talks about the one that they missed, right? Who knows that they do this to people? I know that I can pick myself at times in language where it's not good enough. Even though what they did was incredible. And over the years as an employer, I have gotten better and better at giving good feedback. See, I'm somebody who had to self-motivate myself, and I don't really I'd score a goal literally and I'd just run back to halfway and just keep going. Whereas a lot of the guys I played with at school would run to the flagpole and celebrate. And I learned that actually you do need to celebrate, right? Because what we need to do is counteract the energy that this whole, it's just enough or it's not good enough. We've got to celebrate the wins because we've got to counteract the negative, the things that we've attached to go from this 100% to the negative feelings that we have, because this has so many of you devaluing yourself or just keeping life at a certain level. Who here has heard when lotto winners win money and then they lose it all? And have you ever wondered why? Why do you reckon? Just throw out some answers as to why you think somebody wins the lotto, the jackpot, $100 million, right? And then they lose it all. Why do you think that they lose it?
They're not worthy of having the money in the first place.
Yep. They feel they're not worthy? Yep. Yep. Great. External validation, all those type of reasons. If we talk about everything as energy, your nervous system has a capacity. It has a actual boundary of what it can handle. And so some people's window of tolerance is this small. And so the aircon's not working and they lose their shit. It's hot and sweaty and the aircon's not working and life is over. Or they're in the car and the car in front of them is driving really slowly, or for me, used to be at the shopping centre when somebody's in front of you walking really slowly. Your nervous system, your window of tolerance, the goal is that the more we can increase that window of tolerance, the more that we can handle, the more we can hold. Because if everything is energy, people say they want more love, They want more joy. They want more money. They want more and more and more. The thing is, they actually have to know that they could hold that. So we talk about the lotto that way, and that's easy to it's like easy to separate from that. But say you want to earn $10,000 more a year, and then all of a sudden you get a pay rise or something happens and you get that $10,000. What else happens? So that's a positive. What happens on the other side of that? Cost of living goes up. And the reason I say it like that is like there's a reality to that, but there's also so many people go into budget and saving mode, which in some instances is required, but it's also what could you be doing to earn more? And so the reason is this is scarcity and abundance thinking is positive and negative. If you have that $10,000 come in and then all of a sudden you have a car accident and your insurance had expired and so that bill comes in at $10,000, so it like cancels each other out because it puts you into a neutral, it neutralizes it. Because the thing is that dependent if you're internal or external, energetically, you will be living in either an energy neutral or an energy deficit. So if you're tired all the time, outside of known medical reasons, you're probably in an energy deficit state. So everybody around you, all the way you're speaking, the food you're eating is probably a lower vibrant food. So usually when I know I'm going into an energy deficit is I'm time poor, I'm driving through more KFC drive-thrus than usual. Sometimes Macca's breakfast. Like this doesn't happen often, like it used to be in the past. But I know that if I'm not actually aware of how I'm handling my nervous system, then I end up in that energy deficit. Bills start coming in more. My sisters become more annoying. Paul washes the dishes up too loud. Like, right? But then 2 weeks later, it can be the same dishes being washed and it doesn't impact me. It's actually like, I'm so grateful for the fact that he's doing the dishes. Right? Your nervous system dictates everything, including the amount of energy you can hold. And so, if you want to hold more energy, which most people do, because most of you, if you're in an energy neutral, energy deficit state, you're probably judging people who have more energy than you, money, friends, love, joy. You're judging them, and you actually want what they have, which is envy, not jealousy, just so you know. So, from 7, Penny. Yeah? Cool. You're like, fuck, she remembered. I will land the plane eventually. Some of you may be like, what the fuck is this bitch talking about? Just stick with me. I will land the plane before we finish. So, 7, it wasn't good enough. So then how did that play out for you when you were 15, 16, 20? Like, how did I'm not worthy become a bigger thing?
For me, it was seeking validation.
Great. So seeking answers from others. Who has done that in their life? If you haven't, I'm like, well, you are on it. Right? Like, it's so exciting. Hey, what's up?
From our home.
That's from your home. It's very beautiful. Thank you for bringing it.
Thanks. And this is our speaker too.
That's your speaker too. Great. Do you know that you're 100% worthy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? That's the confidence that many of us had, dependent on the childhood we're having. Can I keep talking? Is that okay with you? Okay, great. So, if we're seeking from others, the ways that we can seek that is in the relationships we choose. Who here has heard you marry your parents? It's true, isn't it? Yep, I saw that reaction. And so I was having a conversation with Paul about this. I'm like, which parent did I marry if I married my... And then I'm like, oh, I think I married... I think that I married my mum, partly, but he's not a fairy. He'd be a good Santa Claus. But then it's like when you actually reflect on your partner and you go, well, what in my partner is my parent? You start to be able to close off or seek back or get back that validation that you had outsourced to that. So an example I want to give you is last week I was in Cairns and I met with my stepfather who sexually abused me when I was a child. And I hadn't seen him for, I think it was 15 years previously when he had a brain tumour, and I sort of went in and I was like, why did you do what you did and stuff? That was before I am who I am now. Seeking answers to the life that I was living. But it was 3.5 hours that I got to sit with him, and I am so grateful for that opportunity. It was the most peaceful, beautiful conversation. And to sit in gratitude for the person he was, is, and his own journey. What it was like for him to have made those choices, what it was like for him to not grow up with his children, and my two younger sisters are, it's their dad. What it was like in jail, like that was very interesting. I felt like I was like watching a TV show with everything he was saying. But I was so calm in it, and I was so proud of myself in that moment, but I was also proud of him for actually saying yes when I found his number. Like I had to go through all these different people to get his number. But for saying yes to meeting up, like that's pretty brave too, right? And I could decide to live my life like a lot of people do, in holding on the energy and holding into that negative state and blaming him for the life that I have. Or I could actually completely release it. And I released it years and years ago. The reason I wanted to catch up with him is because I did have great memories with him for a lot of my childhood. This is where I won't go because we've got young ones here. But also, at what point does what he did be wrong, right? This is where I start to question all the things that we get told that are wrong and right, how we're raised, what a good job means, and what a good job, just as long as you've got enough money to pay the bills. Dependent what ethnicity you come, you may have to make sure that you've got enough to pay for your parents back wherever they live. Like there are so many different criteria we give to our worthiness and the type of work or the role that we have. And that determinant of what is right and what is wrong is what holds us back and keeps us in the state of I'm not worthy. And so what would it mean for you if you weren't seeking validation from others in your romantic relationship, if you weren't seeking external validation from I'm going to put friends here, right? But the people that you are seeking validation from who are friends, are they actually friends? Because I have a lot of conversations with people who talk about their friends negatively when it's like in confidence with their coach, and that's nobody in this room. But what I mean is, the people that you say you want to be friends with, or that you say are your friends, why are you seeking validation from them? Would you not want to be friends with people you can fully be yourself with? Like, do you have friends that you can be fully yourself with? In all the ways, in all the great ways, in all the ways that, when people say, we were at a funeral, a client's mum died, and we were at the funeral yesterday, and it was really great because her friends got up, they'd been neighbours for 37 years, and they were talking about like what happens at wine club stays at wine club. Like the friends who, they know the things that nobody else will ever know, probably including your husband. Do you have friends where you can fully be yourself? And if not, why not? And that's usually because what you're doing is you're trying to seek something, which means you think you're lesser than them, that they are better than you. And as soon as you go into any relationship thinking that you are lesser than, you are the one who's always chasing. And so if some relationship coaches you listen to, they're like, you need to become the one who's chased. Well, what if you just became fully whole, remembering that you were perfect, whole, complete, 100% worthy when you were born? If you were able to get back to that space and understand that you don't have to be chased. You don't have to chase anybody. You can just be yourself and you will find your village. Sometimes though, what this means is we have to go through this feeling. And has anybody felt this feeling? Does anybody feel this feeling like in your life in some way now? Great. And then, dependent on whether you have a religion that you practice or anything like that, then you might say, you know, you're never alone, God's always there, or we call God Gus because God, universe, source, because everybody's different, so whatever you call it, you're never alone. But in this reality, in this version of reality that I know most live, anybody would rather do anything but be this. Because it is so brave to be willing to sit at the table by yourself. To sit at the table by yourself while you wait, while you experiment, while you look for, while you feel into people who want to be at your table too. Have you ever taken yourself out for dinner? And not like in the whole, like, this is shame, I'm like, oh, what is it called? This is not Sigma. Whatever the word is. I still can't determine whether the word Sigma means good or bad. But gone out to dinner with the complete intention that you love you and you love spending time with you. And what does it feel like when you've done that? Yeah? Was it good? Yeah? Awesome. I have a client who, she's got 6 children, like that's a lot of children. I've only got 2, so when you said like she's got lots of, whatever you said, I was like, that makes me sound like I have lots of children. I do not. At the centres I do, but not my own. So how long have I got?
Oh, you've got half an hour still.
Okay. I will wrap this up so you guys can ask questions if you want to. So what I want to get at is that vibration that you can hold, your nervous system can hold when you can love being with yourself. Because there are a lot of people who will do anything but be this. They'll go out every night of the weekend. If they're sitting at home, they might be scrolling on their phones. They might be, I don't know, is Hinge the new name of the app? Anyway, I think it is because I think my client is using that at the moment. So Hinge. So you might be lonely, like, so you're at home by yourself, but you're like on the thing, trying to get the validation, like try and match. Then you get all the matches and then you're like, fuck, they all suck. But then won't go at 8 a.m. to the dash hound thing on Saturdays, where they should, because that's probably where they'll meet. And then we go into should, which is a whole nother word. I'm not going to add that to tonight. So the goal is, right, is if you can get your nervous system to handle and to love being with yourself, and for you to be able to look in the mirror, which a lot of people can't do, and actually say, I love you completely and wholly for who you are. I accept and validate you. I'm not going to tell you to do affirmations. I don't tell any of my clients to do affirmations because it makes people feel a bit weird. But if you want to, you can, right? But if you can look into the mirror and genuinely love what you see, your nervous system starts to expand, it starts to strengthen, and it starts to build this ability to actually realize that how fucking awesome you actually are. And then all these things start happening. All these cool things start happening. You make space for new relationships. You make space for new friends. You make space for the things that you didn't even expect. You make space for more money, and that is usually the one that most people say they want. The thing is, though, is that money is not the only resource. So if we're born 100% worthy, we are born knowing, this is actually quite a creepy doll, but don't tell Owie that. Her eyes like flip like, anyway, if we're born 100% worthy, we are born with the expectation that the universe has everything that we need. We will have enough food. We will have somebody who feeds. Can you put that in so I don't forget it? We will have enough food. We will have enough love. We will have enough. There's always enough. There's an abundance of things. And at some point, we then go into scarcity where there's not enough. We're not enough. There's not enough of the things. When you can start to look in that mirror and say that to yourself, the only reason you get more money is because you actually have more of everything. And that is why people talk about this fucking word. The reason I swear is because gratitude is more than a gratitude journal. It is more than lines you write on paper on repetition. Gratitude is a way of being. It is an emotion. It is a state that you get to live in. And when you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am worthy, I love you completely, you actually start to live every day in gratitude. And it's not just a ritual or a practice or a habit of writing things down. I just keep doing it and it's not happening. And why am I not getting it? And why is not money? I'm doing all the things and the fucking thing is not happening. Stop looking at it as a thing to do and start looking at it as a thing to be. Be grateful for the fact that you woke up today and got to breathe. And for some of you in this room, you really, really like to breathe. There's a few breathwork instructors in here, that's why I said it. So this whole difference between doing versus being. If we have an epidemic in Australia, and actually it's globally, but I'll speak in regards to our country. If we have an epidemic of loneliness, if we have a disconnect between our generations, so we have more children who feel like they're on their own, we have more adults in their productive years feeling lonely. Do you know what it's like to be in an aged care facility? Like actually live there? I don't think anybody here does yet. You all look like you're 25. But it is so fucking lonely because society devalues you. You are not relevant. It doesn't matter anymore. You are done. You have nothing to give. Do you know how much they have to give? So if we've got loneliness here, we do this because society made doing productivity equals worth. And what we actually need is this. You need to actually be more than do. And I haven't Googled this, but I have always wondered if this is where Scooby Dooby Doo got his name from. Because it's like Dooby Dooby Doo. Anyway, this is, she is ADHD. Right? Being is the feminine, doing is the masculine. And the reason I talk about doing and being rather than masculine and feminine is because we have attached so much to gender that it is a fucking problem. Because people don't want to be... Women don't want to go into their feminine because the feminine is seen as weak in society standards. Like, we're so judged. Women are weak. I don't want to go into my feminine, but now I've got some power and I'm going to be here. And then there's some people here who are afraid to go into their masculine because they're afraid of men because of the life they've had. So in the work that I do, I get rid of this so that we can just look at it as doing and being, because masculine and feminine is too attached to the male-female gender roles that we have grown up in society. So the solution to the problem, if you decide to look at it as a problem, is you have to be more and you need to stop doing. When you can do that, this will dissipate, because when you are being, you can actually have real friends, you can actually have a real relationship. And I don't mean like the high school one where you have the pretend girlfriend and talk about like a real, like loving one that feels real. And you stop doing this, because what are you actually seeking if you have gone back to remember that none of this matters because you were all born this. So you can be more. You can look in the mirror, and when you are being more, you will get more. You will get more love, you will get more joy, you will get more money, you will get more time. Because the cool thing that's happening is that time freedom is now becoming the new money. Like, we've gone through the Instagram phase of owning all the things and hiring the pretend plane to look like we're jetting off somewhere, but there's like literally a place you can actually go and get footage in a pretend plane. That's going, right? And now it's all about time freedom. So everyone's wanting tiny homes and to like live on land and like escape the thing that the Instagram world has created. And then that all those people are freaking out about the Instagram algorithm. It is broken. But if you could have more time, which is actually the only thing you can't buy. If you could have more time with a parent that's passed, if you could have more time with somebody that you used to love, if you could have more time with your loved ones now, wouldn't that be worth everything? And so if you want more of all of those things, all you have to do is learn how to do this. Because when you're a baby and you're born 100% worthy, all you know to do is to be. Because you come out 100% worthy, completely innocent, and hopefully you're looking up at eyes that love you. And at that point, you choose. And imagine if you were able to, children were able to be born, they were able to be loved for who they are, completely seen for who they are. And instead of us using the old school ways of judging on our marks, the old school ways of paying for what we can produce, what if we just this, and everybody lived their purpose and everybody knew their passion as early as they could? What would the world look like? What would your world look like? And ultimately, all you really give a shit about is yourself. So, learn how to be more. Look in the mirror. Get yourself to a point. Let everything go in your life that is holding you back from you being able to say in that mirror, I love you completely. That could be people, that could be things, that could be expectations, that could be stories. But it's only in that moment that everything that you want, which is more time, more money, more everything, it's the only way that that becomes possible. But the more you keep thinking about yourself being lesser than, more is not possible. Because if everything's positive and negative, that negative thinking is only going to give you negative things. So if you want more, which apparently the plus side means, stop doing and start being. And that is my TED Talk. And questions? I don't even know where we're at. Yeah, does anyone have questions?
Sure, I have a question.
Great.
You say that we date our parents, right? Which I can.
Yep.
One of our parents, right?
Yep.
Essentially. Like, what if you do a lot of work, maybe heal a lot of wounds that may be related to your parents? Do you think that then you have that likelihood of not then actually ending up with someone like that anyway?
Yes. So what I would mean that is because if you actually did the work and did the healing, then the story that you would have and the view you would have of your parents would change. Yeah. Therefore, you would then look for and see different. Does that make sense? Yeah. Great. Any other questions? Yes?
How do you do more being than doing? Maybe like, how do you go to in your life? How does it manifest?
For me or for anybody? For me, so Yana mentioned earlier, I do like a lot of things. For me, being in my feminine is when I do things without an outcome. Like I will paint and have no idea of time, will have no idea of what I'm even creating, don't even care what's coming out really. There's no outcome, there's no productivity, there's no end. And I had an art show a couple of years ago, and I realized that when I started painting and doing, because I had to get a certain amount of pieces, I chose to, not had to, I chose to get a lot of pieces done to put it out, I lost the joy in it, and I actually didn't paint for a number of months, if probably a year after that experience. And so now I protect it fiercely. Not that there's, like, when I talk about that, I mean, I paint when it actually is a feeling, when that being is desired. But being for me is also like, I have a massage every fortnight, not with Yana, but now that I know that. But it's non-negotiable because that's being, and for me, touch is not one of my top love languages, but it's really important for all humans. That's why hugs are so healing, which, if you knew me probably even only 3 years ago, I was not a hugger. And if you know my children, they too are not big huggers like this. Right, that was me. But the reason I say that is so for me, being goes into my schedule, but it's also, so the school holidays, for instance, if I look at designing my life, I don't do many one-on-ones in the school holidays. So my school holidays are if I think about an octopus and it's expand and contract, then when I expand, which is the 10 weeks of the year, then I contract in the 2 weeks so that I can serve myself, so that I can move forward again and serve others, as well as continue to serve myself and my family. But if I was, and when I used to, especially when I was building the early childhood centres up more, I would not stop. And I would say that was a big reason for the infertility issues that I had trying to get pregnant with Owie. Because I was just doing all the time. I wasn't stopping. And so when Life by 8 started to be built and designed, it was with that intention, is that I actually want to design my life first and the business around it, my life around whatever it is that I want. But you have to do it at the beginning. The thing is, though, is that I had to know I was worthy of that, and then that was possible. And the thing is that I was getting my worth from the doing, from just doing all the things, from getting all the achievements, from getting all the whatever. I was just doing, because that's what I was getting validation from. But the moment that work was done and that healing was done, then it was like, fuck it, what do I actually want? I want to be able to travel every year. I remember I'd never been overseas before I got married, and in our vows that we were allowed to have, not in the church, it was like the guarantee was every year we would travel overseas. Like that was part of the life design from then. And I might have gone overseas every year except the 13 months, so I missed it by a month with COVID. I might have gone even if it's been without Paul or the boys, but I've held that to myself, because me, when I travel, that's when my cup and my soul gets filled. Like that's where most of my ideas come from, when I'm on that plane or getting off that plane and meeting people. Like I don't really like a lot of people. It's just picture, as in what I mean by that is if I'm not aware, if I don't have self-awareness, I will get absolutely drained by being around a lot of people for a long time. So when I travel, and this is something that Paul and I had to do the work on, is that I like to travel on my own more than I like to travel with the family, in the way of my cup getting filled, because I am in pure, like it's just me, it's in my internal being, whereas Paul's external when we talk about energy types. And so Paul actually likes future things. He does all the planning, he does all the things for the holiday, and he really likes to go together because of the love, and I'm like, it's great. And though I also have these retreat spaces, like literally on an island, but no, where I need to actually go on my own. So for me, being is by myself. Being is knowing that I have to make sure that I'm getting touch, and that obviously I have a husband and I just mostly get it from him. But the massages are me being in receivership and not serving. Because a lot of the work that I do, whether it's with the childcare centres or with coaching, is I'm giving a lot. And so where am I allowing myself to receive? Because being in your feminine is the ability to receive. And so many people say they want more money, they want more everything, but they don't actually accept it. Who here has been meant to be paid back by somebody and the money's been offered? Oh no, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. Yeah, that's why you're not getting any more, because you're not open to actually receive what is yours to start with. So you actually have to get okay with being like, when you get the compliment, just say thank you, receive it. So the being for me started that small, and then it started being the little things like the massages fortnightly. And you can tell when Rebecca has not had a fucking massage for a while because it builds up. So it's been really protective of knowing what I need to be, because if I don't, we can it's almost like the receiving tap stops. And I don't just mean that money, I mean even distance in the relationship, even the amount of times your friends call, like all of those things, everything switches off. So you have to protect the ability to be. There's not many people who are being too much and not doing enough. There are people who that is a problem, where it's the opposite, where they're just all like floaty and like, and it's like, do fucking something, right? But for most people in the society that we're in, it's the problem is that we're not being enough. And when the feminist revolution happened in the 60s and 70s, which we stand on the shoulders of giants as women for what they did, but it's also swung the pendulum the opposite way. To the fact that now we've got men and women all doing, and there's not enough people being, and we're seeing it in the generations of children we have. And it doesn't mean we have to go back all the way, but we just as humans really like all or nothing. So we just need to find this actual space, and that comes down to all of us, male and female, being more. So whatever that looks like for you, and it will be different for everybody, but that being, and how I define it is, there's no product, there's no outcome. It's just is how I would define what that looks like. So finding what that looks like for you. But for me, it started off small and got bigger and bigger on top of that. Does that answer the question? Great. Yeah.
So when we think about energy in our vessel, our nervous system being able to, it's like the rubber band, being able to hold more and receive more. What's your perspective then on overflow, when we're the positive and
Yep.
just, yeah,
So abundance.
yeah, just
Like full.
overflow of all the things. Like,
So if we talk about energy deficit, energy neutral, which 95% of the population are, then we've got energy rich states. Most of you would have experienced this. You would have been in flow in some point in your life where you're like, oh, it feels like everything, I've got my shit together. Like, do you know how hard it is to like be a female? Like get makeup and hair done. It's like, I call it the prep shower. It takes like 2 hours, right? But sometimes it just feels like it flows and it's easy. That's energy rich state. Then you've got energy super rich state. Now this is the collective conscious. Energy rich. Yeah. So collective conscious, this is getting into the woo-woo side of things for people, but there's like the collective consciousness where we're all apparently a part of and we're all in a game or something.
we're all one.
I'm translating between, I'm a translator for people when it comes to this sort of stuff. So it's like, I'm fucking not going to really tell people we're in a game matrix thing. That doesn't, it's going to put people off. But energy super rich. There are some people when they're flowing in overabundance. So there's like those people you're like, they have so much money and they have so much love and so much freedom and so much thing. And sometimes a lot of them will keep taking from the collective consciousness, and then they'll go bankrupt, they'll get sick, something happens major, and they'll drop down. The thing is that if you're in energy rich and you're going to go into energy super rich, which not many people, if we talk about values levels, which is Dr. Claire Graves' work, values level 7 and 8, there is not many people in the world in this reality that have access to that. We're talking about Elon Musk, pretty much is like the only one up in 8. But if you are in that overflow and in that abundance, that is when you're actually, if you're in values level 6, you're able to actually give more. So the thing is that a lot of people in values level 4, which is the system we operate in and the world we live in, I don't want to have too much money because rich people are assholes, but I don't want to be poor. So there's like one of the main limiting beliefs when it comes to money is rich people are assholes. Rich people are greedy, money doesn't grow on trees, like all the different, there's all this, but this rich people. So the reason people stay with the energy neutral of just enough, I just want enough. I just want to not have to worry about the next paycheck. They keep themselves small because of the limiting belief that I'm like rich people are assholes. So you've got people in this energy, so depending on where you're at, you're judging them. But if you're experiencing that, if you're in abundance, what it allows you to do and what you actually, if we talk about rules of energy, is giving and helping more. The more money you have, the more people you can help. But the thing is that people say they want to help others, but they want to do it from martyrdom. So a lot of people are like, I need to do it down here and I shouldn't be, like, I want to be paid, but I shouldn't be paid. You want to be paid for, I should pay you for that. Oh, no, that's fine. That's, thank you. I really like to, I'm happy doing that. Right, we're doing it we're keeping ourselves small. But if we allow ourselves to fully step into our power, to fully earn that worth for ourselves, we can actually then serve others. But you won't have that overflow and that abundance if you don't actually accept it for yourself and know that you're worthy of having it for you first. And then you can give to others. It's the oxygen mask metaphor that gets annoying after a while. You hear it a lot. But it's like, it is true. You have to choose it for you first. You have to be okay with being the rich bitch. And it took me a long time, and this is where energy gets very interesting, is I bought an Audi in November. It was on my board for like 8 years. On my birthday, in March, somebody ran up the back of me. A young girl. It was very sad. And I got out and I wasn't affected by it. I was just like, are you okay? Always in the car. It was really cool to not be affected by the car. Now I'm affected by the fucking car. It's been 4 months. All right, so don't buy an Audi. The parts take a long time to get to Australia. Anyway, the point of it being is, for me to step fully into my power, it required me to buy the thing that I had desired for me, but I wasn't buying it because I was scared of the judgment people would have when I drove into the childcare centre and my staff are there, or how people would judge me when I would get out at my family, how they would judge. But the moment I bought it, my standards changed in regards to what I learnt about myself, and when it comes to wealth or worthiness is that it's quality for me. I went to Italy in February, and I don't actually like designer clothes. I'm like, what the fuck is that? They're actually, anyway, that's my opinion only. And Louis Vuitton service was very shit. Anyway, I went in because I wanted to test these limitations that I'd put on myself. And what it was about for me when it came to my worthiness is quality. The quality of food that I consume, the quality of the car that I drove. I'm known for being the person with 32 water bottles in the back of her car, not in the Audi. The Audi was totally spotless from the beginning. So the habit of that, it wasn't a thing I had to change. It was just my standard of living, my worthiness changed. And it's been interesting, right? Because by the time I'm meant to get this car back, so the part arrives on the 14th of July, by the time I'm meant to get the car back is to the day that I had the car. So from November to March will be the exact time period I would have been without the car, to the day. So I don't know what that means. I'm sitting with that at the moment going, am I meant to get back in that car or do I sell it? Because it's like I had what felt like abundance. Then abundance left for the same amount of time that I had it. And what I deem it to mean for me is that my nervous system, can it actually hold this next level? And the answer to that is yes. But if I look at this last 4 months without it, and it's not about the thing, right? I just want the standard, that quality I was living at. I went through the last 4 months, there has been a lot that has gone on. A lot that has meant, whether it's mostly around net worth, a little bit about external validation, but most of the time in external validation, I've actually stepped fully more into that, which is maybe what I was meant to do before I bought the fucking Audi. And so maybe I'll end up with a Mercedes, but we'll just see. But for me, abundance allows, you have to love it for you first. You have to want it for you first so you can serve others. So many people say they want to help others, but it actually comes down to you actually have to allow yourself to desire things. Because we so keep ourselves from actually having, the things that we want, the things we desire, we can hold shame on. I don't want to tell people that I have an Audi. I don't want to tell people that I do this. This could be whatever it is for you. But the only way you're going to hold wealth long term and have impact on this world, and I mean wealth in all the ways, is by actually allowing yourself to have the things that you desire. But it has to be what you desire first, not just because you want to help others. The more I have, the more I can help. And also for those who want more and don't want to help, cool. And I also know that the energy laws we'll work that out, right? Because we actually are we are born as a collective, like we are to help others, but you have to let yourself be selfish first. Self-care is not selfish, and that is a lesson that many women need to learn.
It's a sacred selfishness.
Absolutely. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, and there's a roundabout lots there, but cool. Is there any more questions? Thank you for allowing me to serve with no shoes on. And I have learnt my lesson in regards to don't wear heels, just stick to your sneakers, Rebecca. Thank you for being here tonight. I super appreciate it. There is many faces that I do know, and I thank you so much for your support in all the random things that I do. And for the faces that apparently I know on socials but don't know, thank you for coming. I appreciate your support. I am on Instagram as @RebeccaGrugan, not that it fucking matters because it's broken apparently. But if you want to follow me on there, I would appreciate it. And I believe Growing Leaders Brisbane is also on Instagram.